Hi folks, we're back and we're cutting through the matrix, trying to put some reality out there, to cut out and cut beyond all the propaganda that we're given, and to do what the child did in the old nursery rhyme where they showed you that the king had no clothes. The whole crowd are cheering this silly idiot walking around there nude because he had been conned by some very clever merchants, we'll say, to buy all this nothing he thought was a magnificent cloak. Everyone said it was so wonderful and so beautiful on him because you had to be someone special to see it, just like those guys who try to sell you modern painting with the squiggly lines, you know. It's got all this texture and the squiggles you gotta understand what that means, that little dash there and that splatter. And you've got to be intellectually understand it, you see. Well, it was the same thing with the king with no clothes. So everybody had to be able to see it, to please the king and please themselves and hold their noses up and look down on those who couldn't see it. But the little child on the parade one day, he says, the king has got no clothes. And that broke the spell, and that's what you have to do in this world because we are under incredible conditioning. Daily. Even from the internet, which is really taking over most folks' lives, you know. It was intended to. And the mainstream too, of course, has stepped into every facet of it. And I've said with the mainstream, how they control you is by giving you little bits of what's happening, but omitting good chunks of the realities about why they're happening and what it intends to take you, where it intends to take you. Last night I watched a video that was sent to me. I think it was put up by the BBC, and it's called Taxi to the Dark Side, which I'll put the link up for tonight. And the BBC didn't put up this link, I think, so you better grab it fast. It'll be gone, I'm sure, very quickly. But it was an incredible story of the torture facilities of the US across the world. One of the better videos went into far more detail. It is graphic. And you'll see the brutality of what was happening, the degradation to more extremes than you've seen on most of these other ones that have been put out there. And you'll see the lies by the guys from the top. You'll see how they're contradicted, but they will go back and lie again as to what they were doing, and how they just rounded up people in marketplaces in Afghanistan, Iraq, and so on, who just happened to be shopping at the time. Wrong place, wrong time to fill their quotas, and they really tortured the hell out of these people. Lots of them died. They were murdered, in fact. Some of them were murdered, like one, the guy is named after, the taxi driver. He was actually murdered by security forces, and he was hanging for maybe 12 hours with his handcuffs chained above his head to a grill, and his feet were chained to the floor in an X pattern, and he'd been severely beaten, so badly, in fact, the coroner said this man was murdered, and his legs were as though they'd been run over by a bus. They were utterly pulp. Because, you see, the security guys were taught to kick them and knee them in a certain point in the thigh. And they're all getting their kicks in, as you say. American troops, you know, your brave boys in uniform. And it's no different in any other country too, because, you see, society has been degraded of all value since this liberalization war. And it was a war to destroy the cultures and the values and the morality of the countries involved. And it's been utterly successful. And we're now living in the mess that's all created, intentionally, mind you, because all these troops with all techniques and so on will eventually be used on you. That's why. That's why you create this kind of army. You give them this kind of experience. And you back them, and you excuse them, and you cover for them. All works together. And they do what they're told. And you'll hear some of these guys who were involved, eventually they threw about 3 or 4 of the small fry down at the bottom to the wolves, because of outside inquiries. And even then you'll hear these guys try to justify what they did, like everyone else was doing it, and the usual stuff, the stuff you heard, the Nazis were always blamed for doing, you see. It was their job, and yet torturing somebody is your job. Really torturing someone is your job. Really. What kind of world is this, eh? And these are your governments promoting this stuff and ordering this to happen. And you trust your governments. You do. God help you. God help you all.